Where can I find an explanation of your take on The Dark Knight Rises? The Bane is literally Occupy Wall Street. Like, Christopher Nolan was like, what if we made Bane an economic populist who superficially challenges the wealthy and elite, but in reality he just wants to detonate a nuke in Gotham? Like, they do, dude, they hack writers. I'm sorry, I don't like Christopher Nolan that much. I know Interstellar, I know I know, but like, maybe it's not hack writers, maybe he's just right-wing. I hate this shit. I can't stand it when they're like, I want to make a villain out of a given political ideology. Here's what I'll do. Make a character, give them that ideology, and then make them randomly senselessly evil in a different way for no reason. Like, oh, Bane wants to challenge the wealthy, like, Gotham Wall Street motherfuckers who are like tearing the city apart and profiting from its poverty. Okay, that sounds sympathetic. Oh, now he wants to detonate a nuke and hold public executions. Oh, okay. Like, what the why? Same with the Riddler in the newest one. Yeah. Literally. I get he was supposed to be like a shut-in incel mass shooter kind of vibe, and they did a really good job with that. I think Batman just like provokes a lot of fundamentally reactionary political takes, because you have the exact same thing with the Snyder comics, you know. But yeah, like Bane is literally like, what if I had a point, but then I was evil? And this was taking place, it was right after the Occupy Wall Street protests, where there were so many famous images coming out of people like outside Wall Street with their little encampments and like, you know, 99% versus 1% and so on and so forth. So like, from all of that, if your takeaway is like, what if I made a villain who was like them, but then was super, super, super evil? And it's like, okay, great. Thank you. Hate that shit. Batman is still better than Superman. Disagree. In terms of like politics, disagree. People struggle to give a right-wing take on Superman, and the reason for that is because Superman is a good person. That's literally it. It is so difficult to make Superman a reactionary figure when his most defining trait is that he's a Boy Scout. Genuinely. Like, you can talk about the ethics of superheroism as much as you want, but it's almost impossible to give a conservative take on Superman when the main thing everyone knows about him is that he's really, really nice. You know? You kind of have to be like a bad person to be a conservative. I'm sorry. You have to at the very least be an edgy like thug, you know, engaging in vigilantism, beating up the poor or whatever. None of that tracks with Superman. It just doesn't, you know? You can make Superman eugenicsy, but people don't, is the thing. Because then you have to take that one step further, right? Like, oh, Superman is better than people because of his, like, you know, innate genetic superiority. Is he? Yes, he is. He literally objectively is. But he doesn't have that in his head. Like, he's an immigrant, and he, like, the whole point of his story is that he considers himself to be one of us. That's what makes him him. If you take that away, you're not even doing a Superman story. Like, that's an essential component of the dynamic, you know? He's supposed to be the perfectly idealized person? Not really. He's meant to be a golem. He was written by Jewish authors. He's meant to be like a protector, and I mean, he is, but he has to be a good person to be him. That's why I hate edgy Superman stories. You're not really like dissecting Superman at all. You're just writing edgy Superman. Like, Homelander isn't really a dissection of Superman. He's just a spoof character who wears the same colors. Nothing about Homelander applies to Superman, you know? Nothing transcribes over. There's no criticism of Superman as a character through Homelander, because Homelander's just like, what if a guy with Superman's power was evil? But Superman isn't evil. So, you know, you can consider that like a criticism, I guess, of like how superheroes might act if they really existed, but that's not the same as criticizing Superman. So you're not into injustice stories? Every single one of them that I've seen has been absolute dog shit. I'm sorry, if you want to do some sociology, if you want to get into like, well, what if the Justice League was evil, then go read The Authority, because they did that and better like 20 years ago. Does Superman have any personality flaw? Yeah, he's not God. He's just like personality wise a regular guy. I mean, he's really good, but you know, whatever. It depends on the writer. He's too trusting of authority sometimes. That is legitimately like the only good character flaw of Superman that I have seen dissected. And all the best Superman stories that investigate his like flaws as a character pull from that. Even in The Dark Knight Returns, the comic, he was like a stooge of the US government. Like, that was one of the bits that Batman pulled against him. Like you have fallen in, you're basically just like a pawn of Washington because you just do whatever they tell you to. You've been like corporatized basically. In the really good Justice League Unlimited TV series from the turn of the century, like 2001, 2002, 2003, something like that. The plot line of the first the first arc is about like government corruption and Superman being constitutionally incapable of understanding that the state really doesn't trust him, but also not really understanding that the state is correct to not trust him. There's this really good character dynamic where Superman doesn't believe the state would be funneling billions into an anti-Justice League military project, but then when he realizes that they are, he gets really mad about it because he understands that he's a really good person and that he should be trusted. He's upset that he's not being trusted. But then he has to learn that it's kind of justified that they would distrust him. You know what I mean? Like, it's actually a really good, like, because if you're a really good person, I can understand getting really frustrated that the government thought of you that way, but they're kind of legitimate in doing so. That's also what I didn't like about the Winter Soldier. They dissected Captain America's loyalty to the U.S. government, and then, however, everything was pinned to Hydra only. Yeah, kind of interesting how they did that, huh? We're going to have a whole, like, character arc about how Cap is too trusting of the U.S. government, and how that can be weaponized if they're in nefarious powers. And then from that point forward, Hydra was the only one being evil, and don't worry, now that Hydra's gone, the U.S. government will only recommend they do good things now. Nope, the issue wasn't Cap being super trusting of the government of authority because he's literally a trained soldier. The problem was that the authority in this case was like an evil, super evil, like villain society or whatever. It's fucking. Didn't Cap take the anti-government side in Civil War? Yeah, after he started to distrust it. But like the underlying logic of his distrust wasn't really about the government. It was about the it was about like the nature of the claims being made. Yeah, his disillusionment had more to do with it being Hydra than like the nature of his relationship to power. And likewise with Tony Stark, right? Like with Tony, I don't know. I haven't seen Civil War in a little while. I mean, I read the comics back such and such. The comics stuck more with me than the movie did because the movie was kind of ass. But why are we talking about this, man? Have you seen Red Sun? Yeah, Red Sun. Red Sun is like one of the most popular graphic novels ever written. Sorry, I'm not trying to respond indignantly to your question. I've read it many times. Not recently, but have you seen Invincible? I'll do you one better. I read the whole comic, all like 5 billion pages of it.